Good morning, Pelham Road. It's Wednesday of Holy Week, and I know you're wondering, what did they do on Wednesday of Holy Week? Well, there is a tradition that Wednesday of Holy Week is the day that Judas approached the high priest about betraying Jesus. Now, why was Jesus betrayed by a friend? I mean, he had plenty of enemies. But why is it that he's betrayed by a friend? What drove Judas to do this? Well, the Gospels are largely silent about his motivations. They give hints and maybe imply things, but they don't just tell us exactly what his motivations were. There is a story that is told by all four Gospel writers. It's the story of a woman who had this expensive jar of perfume, and she breaks it, and she cleanses Jesus's feet with this perfume and then dries his feet with her hair. Now, everybody tells it a bit differently. Matthew and Mark do it right before Jesus is picked up by the high priest and the Romans, and Jesus is able to say, well, she's doing this as a preparation for my burial. That's the way Matthew and Mark portray it. One of those writers actually says that there was someone who was outraged by this. He says that someone looked at that wastefulness and said, that could have been sold for 300 denarii, which would be almost a year's worth of wages. And so there is the implication that, something better could have been done with this. Well, John's gospel actually names names. John actually tells you that this complainer, this person who was upset about the way this money was being spent, was Judas. He just calls his name Judas. Now, John's implication is not that Judas really cares about charity and would give the money away. In fact, the implication is that Judas loved money. Okay? So, here we have at least some tension building in the story. Matthew and Mark both tell us that it was after this incident where Judas ends up going to the priest. So maybe this entire incident motivated Judas to do something. Or was there something a little bit more complex going on here? Now, in recent years, I've become more comfortable with Judas's motivation being to light a fire under Jesus. You see, Judas had listened to Jesus for 3 years about love and forgiveness and mercy and grace. But he believed Jesus to be the Messiah, the coming king, the one who would rid the Jews of the Roman rule. And so I suspect that Judas thinks that Jesus needs a little bit of a light lit under it. That if he was to go to the high priest and was to betray Jesus, that the minute Jesus had a knife to his throat by the Romans, all that love and forgiveness would go out the window and the revolution would begin. But whatever Judas's motivation, when he comes to us, we'd like to think, well, we would never betray a friend. We'd never sell out our values, except that we have, and we do, and we will again. We've all been victims of someone betraying us. Maybe today is an opportunity for us to not dwell so much on the times that we have been victimized and betrayed, but all the times that we have betrayed others or our own values. Think about our coworkers, our family, people that we have betrayed. We've repeated gossip. We've shared disappointments. We've let our own ambitions and interests get in the way of relationships more often than we'd like to admit. Now, our first task during Holy Week is to contemplate Christ and his love, the love that he lived and the love that he died with. In addition, though, we can be honest about our own sinfulness and how Too often we stand for the status quo against the revolution of Christ. Too often our greed or our jealousy or our sense of self motivates us to betray that which we claim to love above all else. So in the end, it's really less about Judas and more about us. Let us consider and maybe reconsider how we have betrayed Christ and the values of this kingdom by our actions and our decisions.